The United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense's latest intelligence update on Ukraine, August 27, 2023. Tensions remain perilously high in the Black Sea as Russia and Ukraine continue to vie for control over strategically vital oil and gas platforms between Crimea and Odesa. Last week, a Russian Su-27 fighter jet fired upon a Ukrainian naval patrol boat near the Odesa gas field northwest of the Crimean Peninsula. The brazen attack follows a string of Ukrainian strikes on Russian-occupied platforms across the region. The platforms are operated by Chernomornaftogaz, the Ukrainian state-run company seized by Russia during its 2014 invasion and annexation of Crimea. The rigs command access to precious hydrocarbon reserves that both countries rely on for energy and revenue. Beyond resources, the platforms hold strategic military value as forward operating bases for aviation, logistics, and long-range missiles. Like Snake Island to the west, they can project power and control across the northwestern Black Sea. As Ukraine ramps up its counteroffensive in the south, tensions around these offshore assets will likely escalate. Russia will work to consolidate its grip on the energy infrastructure while disrupting Ukrainian operations. But Russia's aggression will be met with fierce resistance as Ukraine fights to reclaim its sovereign maritime territory. Ukraine Air Force Command update. Last night, Russia conducted a large-scale air attack using between 5 to 8 long-range strategic bombers stationed in Engels, deep inside Russian territory. The bombers fired air-launched Kh-101, Kh-555, and Kh-55 cruise missiles toward targets across central and northern Ukraine. In total, Russia likely fired up to 8 of these advanced precision-guided munitions. Ukraine's Air Force detected the incoming aerial threats and scrambled fighter jets and anti-aircraft systems to intercept them. Through stout air defenses, they managed to shoot down at least 4 of the incoming cruise missiles before they could hit civilian infrastructure. The remainder of the cruise missiles either missed their targets due to technical failures or poor accuracy, or were deliberately flown as decoys to stress Ukraine's air defenses. As Russia continues to rely heavily on standoff strikes using scarce long-range missiles, Ukraine's improving air defense capabilities are becoming an increasingly effective deterrent. Each cruise missile destroyed by Ukraine's fighters and anti-air artillery degrades Russia's ability to terrorize Ukrainian cities. Ukraine Armed Forces General Staff Update. Day 550 of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine continues. Last night, Russia launched another large-scale missile attack across Ukraine. Ukraine's air defense forces intercepted 4 cruise missiles, preventing them from hitting their targets. Throughout August 27th, Russian forces conducted 11 missile strikes, 32 air strikes, and 38 MLRS attacks against Ukrainian positions and civilian areas. These ongoing terrorist attacks killed and wounded more civilians. Residential buildings, schools, and critical infrastructure were damaged. The threat of further aerial bombardments remains high nationwide. Ukrainian forces repelled over 23 Russian ground attacks across the front lines. In the north, there were no significant changes near Volyn and Polisia. Russian forces conducted an airstrike near Kinderivka, Sumy Oblast, and shelled over 25 settlements with artillery and mortars in the Sivershchina and Sloboshanshina regions. Near Kupiansk, Russia hit Nadia, Tverdoklibov, and Myasozhirivka with airstrikes. They shelled areas in Kharkiv Oblast with artillery. On the Lyman axis, Russian forces unsuccessfully tried to advance near Novoselivka, Luhansk Oblast. They shelled over 10 settlements with artillery. Near Bakhmut, a Russian offensive was repelled near Klishchivka, Donetsk Oblast. Over 10 settlements were struck by Russian artillery. In Avdiivka, the invaders shelled numerous towns with artillery. The Ukrainian defense continues holding off Russia's attack near Marinka, while striking their rear areas around Krasnohorivka. Over 10 settlements were barraged with Russian artillery fire. Near Shakhtarzyki, an airstrike hit near Zolota Niva. Several settlements were shelled by Russian artillery. In Zaporizhia Oblast, Russian airstrikes and artillery struck over 20 settlements. In Kherson Oblast, airstrikes and artillery hit over 10 settlements, including Kherson City. Ukrainian forces continue their southern counteroffensive near Melitopol, consolidating gains and conducting counter-battery fire. Throughout the day, Ukraine's Air Force conducted 10 airstrikes on Russian troop concentrations and 1 strike on Russian anti-air systems. Ukraine's artillery and missile forces struck an ammo depot, 2 electronic warfare stations, and 3 Russian artillery batteries. Ukrainian defenses remain resilient across all fronts. Ukraine's forces continue offensive operations to push back the invaders. Institute for the Study of War, Russian Offensive Campaign Assessment. Ukrainian forces made further gains in southern and eastern Ukraine amid continuing counteroffensive operations, per latest Ukrainian military reports. In western Zaporizhia Oblast, the Ukrainian Tavria Operational Group reported advances near Novoprokopivka, Mala Tokmachka, and Akharutuvate. This represents a push northwest towards the Dnipro River and Melitopol. Further east, Ukraine's forces secured areas near Urozhainy and Robotyne in the Berdyansk direction along the Donetsk-Zaporizhia border. Unconfirmed progress was also made near Staromyorsky and the Melitopol direction further south. Ukraine likely seeks to push west towards Melitopol and the Dnipro River crossings, while also driving south to isolate Russian forces in occupied Kherson. Pushing Russia's front lines back in central Zaporizhia will support operations across both southern axes. Meanwhile, Ukraine's eastern group of forces confirmed that offensive actions continue around Bakhmut in Donetsk Oblast. Fighting there has been brutal, but keeping Russia fixed on Bakhmut supports Ukraine's broader operational maneuver to the south. As Ukrainian reinforcements and Western weapons continue flowing to the front, Russia's defenses are being tested across multiple key sectors. Ukraine appears to be making measured gains as it methodically leverages its growing operational advantage. Sustained progress breaking Russia's grip on the south is expected over the coming weeks and months. The Institute for the Study of War key takeaways today. A Ukrainian soldier offered new details on prepared Russian defenses in southern Ukraine. He described trenches, minefields, and other obstacles that Ukraine's forces have breached and still face ahead. This highlights the slow, grinding fight facing Ukraine despite recent gains. It remains unclear how well-manned and equipped Russia's defensive lines are across the south. This adds uncertainty about how the next phase of Ukraine's counteroffensive will unfold once initial positions are penetrated. Overnight, Russian missile strikes targeted Ukrainian airfields and other infrastructure. Attacks seek to degrade Ukraine's military capabilities supporting the counteroffensive. Genetic tests confirmed Wagner Group financier Yevgeny Prigozhin died in a plane crash on August 23. This deals a major blow to the Kremlin-linked mercenary force. Russian millbloggers claim the Russian Ministry of Defense worked to curb Wagner Group's external operations before Prigozhin's death. This highlights apparent tensions between the Ministry of Defense and Wagner amid Ukraine operations. Despite offensive actions, Russian forces failed to secure any confirmed gains along several axes across eastern and southern Ukraine, including near Kupiansk, Bakhmut, and Zaporizhia. Russian authorities continue coercing migrants and foreigners into military service in exchange for citizenship, reflecting desperation amid heavy personnel losses.